But it turned out that it was so many core classes, and you have to decide for yourself whether you want to go into school or not, but you have to be prepared that you're not going to always be taking classes that are of interest to you, and there's so many times that I can't even imagine. There's just so many like electrical engineering classes I took, things like that, just not completely unrelated to games and games industry. Just so much of that you have to do on the side, so it's a tough decision whether to go to school or not. But the experience in specializing, I think, is really key in the industry these days, just because the games are so complex. You can't know everything anymore. You really have to specialize if you want to get into the field.
I think the only thing I can add to that is that the really great thing about college is that it's the last time in your life when your primary expectation that's put upon you is that you'll learn, right? That's the last time when basically your identity as a student and most of what you do is learning stuff. And the computer science programs at most universities give you an opportunity to learn about games and to get experience kind of writing game samples and messing around with a bunch of stuff, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. And I mean, as far as specific universities and specific courses, I think most major universities now have a pretty good computer science program. We've been particularly impressed with the ones at most of the larger universities in Canada, specifically McGill, UBC, Waterloo. We've actually got a number of people on the DirectX team who graduate from University of Waterloo. There is now actually a university, an accredited university for game design and development. That's the DigiPen School with campuses in Vancouver and now in Seattle, right down the street from us and Nintendo. And you can kind of approach them, but obviously, as you might imagine, they're sort of overwhelmed by resumes, and you'll be basically in the same position that you would be applying to work at a games company. You know, you're going to have to already demonstrate some specialization, some experience, something unique about you. But in exchange, they're going to give you education. They're going to allow you a couple more years to build a greater portfolio, to learn stuff, to network, and to have exposure to games companies.
Well, one thing I just want to point out also that I consider very important also is just meeting people, you know. Me and my brother went down to every E3. We didn't work in the industry. We would just like scam tickets somewhere and get into E3 and just walk around and just meet people. And you know, it was just through all those efforts that I was able to get to know all these people here, as well as lots of other people in the industry also. And at least for what I'm trying to do, that's extremely invaluable. And these guys are all really approachable also. You know, it's really easy to like walk up to any of these guys in any sort of environment, here, E3, ECTS, anything else that's going on, just start talking to them. And if you got an idea, you can start talking to them about that idea also. And these guys are always willing to help also. That's one thing that I really like about the gaming industry. You know, there's this, you know, sort of comradeship between everybody. And everybody really likes working together, everybody's friends. You know, there's a little bit of headbutting, I guess, between like some of the major guys about products versus products, but really in the background, all these guys are really friends.
I just have one general comment. As you kind of go down your path to be either a game programmer or be in the games industry, I imagine a lot of you are now gamers wanting to be programmers and maybe not actually having programmed, maybe even to no degree at all. But as you start to get down the path, you may actually realize that, I actually like playing games more than trying to get into the industry. And you know, that's not a bad thing. You know, maybe it's something you just want to keep as maybe a full-time hobby, but maybe go off into other areas as well that maybe are related to gaming or absolutely have nothing to do with gaming. But you know, don't be surprised that as you get down that path, it's like, well, this isn't as fun as it used to be. You know, now that I'm in the industry, I realize that, well, God, I actually like playing games more than doing games. So, you know, that's not a bad decision either. But you know, it's just one of those life lessons with actually careers across the board. You know, someone who wants to be a fireman, for example, gets to be a fireman and realize, God, I actually like watching the TV shows or the movies more than actually being one. So that's more just a general, you know, just a general rule of thumb. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. Before you even embark on this career path, you've got to know why you want to do it. You really have to know why you want to do it. If your reason is because I love games, it's probably not the right reason. If your reason is because I love programming and because I love getting in and just making things work and solving little problems and tracking down bugs, that's a good reason, right? I mean, that starts to get more closer to what people actually do in these jobs. it's sort of, having a love and a passion for games is absolutely the number one priority for trying to go into this, because that's what's going to get you through it. But through all of the sort of difficult times and the things that aren't as pleasant, but you've got to really understand why it is that you want to do that specific thing, and what you hope to accomplish with your career.
Just along the lines of after you're going, at what point is it really worth starting to look at getting jobs and approaching people in the industry? Because right now, I'm still finishing off high school. I've done a lot of programming. Like, I really enjoy programming. I'm working with these guys, kind of trying to make their own company, getting all the points which you talked about, the budget is getting way out of control and all this stuff. But I really do want to go to school. But at what point is it really worth starting to approach you guys to, get into the industry, get a job? What kind of stuff do I have to have under my belt to actually, have a chance at this?
Well, similar situation, I guess, but I think when you feel comfortable about like approaching, talking to the guy, I mean, there's really no hard set rule or anything like that. When you want to be able to, when you think you have something to show, show for yourself, because that's really how you gain respect. Because you're able to show something that you're talented, and you've got, whether it's demos or written scripts, whatever it happens to be, something unique, something that makes you stand out and shows that you put a lot of hard work into it. I think that's probably one of the best times you can do that. But as far as if you're contemplating whether you're gonna start a company or whether you're gonna go to college, I had that exact same problem face me. I decided to go to college and keep the company going. And boy, I mean that was crazy. And I was doing 2 degrees as well while I was trying to keep the company going full time. And that was not fun, and it was a lot of work, but you kind of worked through it. So my solution was to do both, and that was pretty insane. I don't know if I recommend that to anybody, but one thing I would recommend is again, really specialize in what area you want to be focused in, whether it's programming, whether it's graphics programming, or whatever, and be able to show that to people and be able to release stuff on the net. I mean, you could do so much now that you couldn't do just a few years ago, and be able to get some attention for your work.
I think it's actually pretty easy to determine when you want to approach somebody, but it takes a lot of insight. And here's how you do it. Imagine yourself in the role of the CEO of a games company or the lead programmer or something. Then imagine that you and 100 other people who all have relatively similar skills come in and apply for a job. Now, if you would hire yourself, or if you would at least give yourself an interview, that's probably about the time to start seeing if you could do it. It's a very fiercely competitive industry, and it's going to be more competitive as companies start to consolidate. There's probably way too many games that are being produced right now, so you're going to see consolidation. But there's always going to be space for people who have talent and can prove that they can do this. And so, if you hire yourself, and you got to pretend like you don't know it yourself, and you don't love yourself, then that's probably a good rule of thumb.
And you're going to be able to get those insights by communicating with other people that are kind of in the industry and you see that, boy, the stuff that we're working on has a really cool niche, or it really addresses these particular areas better than anybody else's that I've seen. Then you've got some specific points that you can bring up with that fictitious CEO, so to speak. You can say, yeah, I got something that really stands out here. I'm ready to go now.
Yeah, that's probably a better suggestion. If you could find somebody else who's a programmer, and again, this is where